Yo guys, what is going on? Welcome back to the FIFA Flow podcast, guys. Today we got quite a big episode to talk about, guys. We haven't done a episode for about 2 or 3-ish weeks now, guys. Of course, 3 weeks ago I finished my first year of university, and then was that 3 weeks ago? About 3 weeks ago, I'd say. It was just after. It was about. We did the last episode we did was the 4-1 comeback against Barcelona, and that was the same week I came back from finishing university. And then the week after that, we didn't really have any big games, so I took the week off. And then the week after that, we lost to Dortmund 1-0 in the first leg. And then I didn't feel like making an episode because we lost, and then it continued to get worse because then we lost in the second leg as well. So PSG are out of the Champions League. There you go. And then I was just so sad. I was dismotivated to make any podcast. And then we had the Bayern Madrid game, a crazy game, one of the biggest games, and also most controversial games. I want to talk about that. We had the Leverkusen, and then on the weekend as well, we also had, I think this was last weekend, this past weekend, we had some big games as well. Of course, PSG winning the league. Some big PSG news as well. We're going to be talking about that. And just overall. And then today we had a very big game as well, Spurs versus City, which was probably the game decider for the Premier League title. So we're going to be talking about that as well. Overall, a lot to talk about. 2 and a bit weeks worth of football news we will be talking about today, guys. We're going to be talking about, first off, the Spurs City game, the Premier League race, of course, last game upcoming for both Arsenal and Manchester City. We're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about the game today. It was a dramatic game, of course, probably the hardest game for Spurs out of their last 5 remaining games they had, and they came out to win it. We're going to be talking about that. And I just want to talk about the Prem overall, and is it really the best league in the world? I was talking with one of my friends earlier about it, and we were kind of discussing, so I want to talk about that as well. We're going to be talking about Paris Saint-Germain, of course, winning the trophy, of course, the PSG trophy, and of course, Ligue 1 going through a huge new revamp of the league with a new sponsor, a new logo, so we want to talk about that as well. And of course, with PSG's new transfers, of course, and also the departure of Kylian Mbappe, we're going to be talking about that as well. I want to talk about Bayer Leverkusen. Unbeaten. I think they have the longest unbeaten streak, so I want to talk about that as well. And just overall as a football club, the way they play, the players themselves, Xabi Alonso's tactical decisions and stuff, I want to talk about that. And then at the end, we're going to be talking about the Champions League as well. Of course, with PSG going out of the Champions League, and Real Madrid, Bayern Munich with an amazing game. And then we're also going to be doing a short overview. We don't have the Copa America and Euros quite yet, but I kind of want to do a short overview of the groups, take a look at the teams, and also the Ballon Dor race, of course, with Real Madrid now in the final, PSG knocked out, Bayern Leverkusen, all of this stuff, and also with a overview of the Copa America and the Euros, of course, how that outcome of those 2 competitions could also change the effect, like the percentage, the chances of certain players to win the Ballon d'Or. And then, like usual, ended off with a footy tic-tac-toe. So guys, a lot of news to talk about today. So let's get right into it, guys. So yeah, as I said, haven't done a podcast in about 2 and a bit weeks here. Yeah, 3 weeks ago it says here. The last one was the 4-1 comeback, the La Remontada, the revenge against Barcelona. But I think we had did we have an El Clasico? I don't think we did. But there was a few games that we did miss, some pretty big games as well. If we take a look over here, FOTMOB, we had United versus Arsenal. We're not going to be talking about those, unfortunately. I think it's a bit too late to talk about those. But we can just take a look at what are some of the games that we missed. Of course, we're going to be talking about Leverkusen, Real Madrid, Bayern, PSG, Borussia Dortmund. We had Spurs, Liverpool last week. That was a pretty good game. Chelsea. Okay, so yeah, I thought there was a bit more bigger games. Yeah, the North London derby. Very good game for Spurs or for Arsenal. I mean, um, but yeah, overall, yeah, there was some pretty big games that we did not talk about. Of course, as I said, I was kind of sad with the PSG outcomes, of course. So I kind of just skipped those weeks. But here we are. We have a lot of news to talk about. So yeah, let's get right into it. Tottenham Hotspurs versus Manchester City today, guys. 2-0 win for Manchester City, guys. This was I think the first half was, you can start to notice the way that, like, you can definitely tell by the first half that there was definitely going to be a very dramatic second half. I think the first half, it was pretty 50-50 in terms of who's going to win. I think Manchester City, this was not the normal City we see always play. I think that I think sometimes at some moments Spurs made them, like, let them have some of the easiest chances. But at the same time, Spurs were doing very good on the counterattacks. And the only reason City won today is because of how bad Spurs were. They couldn't convert their counterattacks. They were having 3 versus 2s, 4 versus 3s, 4 versus 2s against City on the counterattacks. And they were just messing up some of the easiest passes. So that was the first half for you. And then going into the second half, not only because of the goals scored in the second half, the overall chance creations, of course, Ederson being subbed off for Ortega, the backup reserve keeper for Manchester City, it was a huge controversial injury, unfortunately. And after that injury, a lot of people really thought that Spurs were going to win. But as I said, City did, like, in the second half, there was definitely more chances being created that both teams could have scored. But at the end of the day, Spurs, I think, had to blame themselves. They just couldn't convert those counterattacks. And man, Vicario had a very good game. You can't really blame him. I think you have to blame the defenders. The first goal, Erling Haaland, was a tap in. Just, of course, when Kevin De Bruyne has the ball at the edge of the box, at the top of the box up here, you already know he's going to feed that in right to the top of the keeper box, and Haaland is going to be standing, waiting right there. The second goal, now this is where the controversy begins. Not really the controversy, but the drama begins, because Heung-min Son, one of the best players, missed probably the goal that could have decided the Premier League title. Because if Son had scored this, it was the 88th, 87th minute, I believe, somewhere around there. If Son had scored that goal, I don't think, with the way that the overall match was going. Now, I think, as I said, in the first half, and even up to the first goal that Erling Haaland scored, I think that both teams had their chances. City had a lot of good chances, but Dragusin and Romero, bro. These two link up today were amazing. They were just like they knew where to be and when to be there. So amazing round of applause to them. And Vicario as well made some amazing saves against not against Kulusevski, he's on Spurs, but just overall against Bernardo Silva, against Phil Foden, against Kevin De Bruyne. So, like, these three in the back here, they centrally in the back here, did amazing. Van de Ven, I think, also did very good as well. James Maddison. But as I said, up to the first goal that Haaland scored, I think it really wasn't like it was really like the whole match until the first goal that Haaland scored was like, it's gonna come down to like one of these teams making a mistake. And at the end of the day, Spurs made that mistake, at least on the second goal, and also on the way to drawing the game. And at the same time, Spurs just couldn't convert their counterattacks. They had a lot of good counterattacks, but just as I said, they couldn't convert them. They made the wrong passes. Maybe they made the correct pass to the good player, like out wide, but they just couldn't pass it correctly. Or by the time they made that pass, there was already too many City defenders back. But where I was going is, if Heung-min Son had scored the goal that would have drawn the game 1-1 in the 87th minute, it was the last minute of the game, by the looks of how the game was going, I don't think either team would have went on to score a winner. So, as I said, it's just surprising how a player like Heung-min Son, who's one of the best players to to have a finishing technique, either whether it's near post, whether it's traveling with the outside of his foot to the far post, even like going around the keeper. This guy is probably one of the best finesse shot players in the Premier League. The best one-on-one players. He has probably one of the easiest near post finishes ever, one-on-one, and is probably one of the most important, not only for the Premier League title race, but also for Spurs themselves, because as of now, Spurs are no longer able to qualify for the Champions League. They're no longer able to qualify. Now, even if Spurs had won this game, they could have had a chance, but they also must have hopes that Aston Villa would have also lost their next game, which is unlikely, against Sheffield United at the bottom of the league. But either way, they could have had some hope. Now the hope is all gone, and this was the moment, of course. Now, I've seen a lot of people on Twitter, a lot of Arsenal fans, a lot of football fans saying Spurs lost this on purpose because they'd rather see City win the Premier League rather than Arsenal. And also, as I said, if Spurs had won this game, even if they've drawn it, no, I think even if they draw, they would have been out still. But if Spurs had won this game, right, they would have been on 66 points. And even then, Aston Villa would have to have lost their game, and Spurs would have to have beaten. Aston Villa have Crystal Palace, which I still think is an easy game for Aston Villa. But as I said, even if Spurs had won this game, 66, they would still have to hope that Aston Villa would have lost. Even a draw isn't enough because they have a 10-goal differential. And no way Spurs are scoring 10 goals against Sheffield United. So even if Spurs had won this game, they would have to hope that Aston Villa would have lost against Crystal Palace, which I don't think is happening. So maybe they knew that, okay, even if we win today, Aston Villa are definitely going to come out with a point against Crystal Palace. Let's lose purposely and let City win the league and not Arsenal, of course. So that is just a pretty crazy thing. I think either way, at the end of the day, this is not something that Postecoglou, whatever the Austrian is, the Australian or whatever, or New Zealand, I think. That's not what his hope was. He wasn't planning for them to lose and let City win the league. Of course, just because of the North London derby controversy, Arsenal and Spurs history of the rivalry. It doesn't come down to that. I think it just comes down to like they were doing their best, as I said. They just couldn't convert their chances, and overall, even if you take a look at Spurs' last few games, they just were not them, bro. Lost against City today. They had a 2-1 win against Burnley, 4-2 loss against Liverpool, 4-2 loss against Chelsea, 4-2 loss against Arsenal, 4-0 loss against Spurs. So in the last 5 games, not including today, they won 1 out of the last 5 games. Now, we talked about this in the last podcast as well, or even the one before, I don't remember, but we already knew that. I told you guys, it's going to be a difficult one for them, and I told you they weren't going to get top 4. But with the games that these guys had, like maybe there was some hope, of course, in the Chelsea one at 8th place or 7th place in the league, I think. Arsenal, of course, they were close, although they were 3-0 down, and then they scored 2 goals in the second half, almost made a comeback. But as I said, like in 4-2 against, even then, a sloppy Liverpool team who haven't been doing good either. It just came down to Spurs, and yeah, they were just not in the form that they wanted to be in to play against a team like Manchester City. As I said, it came down to Spurs. Spurs lost their own game. They couldn't convert their chances. But yeah, this was the game. This was the chance that could have decided who would win the Prem. But yeah, I mean, to be fair, there is still a chance, of course. Like, it's City. To be fair, it is City. And knowing City, they're the best. They're one of the best teams in the world alongside Real Madrid. So they're probably going to go on to win their next game against West Ham. But don't underestimate West Ham. West Ham come out with a few draws here and wins here and there. So we'll see what happens with West Ham. Arsenal also have Everton at the bottom of the league. Not bottom, but 15th place, which is an easy win for them. They'll surely go on to win. But if I'm an Arsenal fan, if you guys are an Arsenal fan, I won't, like, you guys should not be disappointed at losing the league because you did the best you could. I think all you can do is do your best against Everton. Hopefully, go on to win that game, finish it out strong because you guys had 27 wins, which I think is that the most. I think if I saw correctly, this is the most wins Arsenal have ever had in a Premier League campaign. And I think it's more than the invincible season they had in 03. Was it 03 04? No, 02. Whenever it was, 02 03, 03 04. But that, so I think they just have to end it strong. They can't really do anything now. They also just have to hope that City like lose points against West Ham as well. Now, even if City do lose points against West Ham, actually, to be fair, yeah, if it does come out with a draw, it's still gonna be Arsenal's favor because if it's a draw, the goal difference won't change, and as it stands right now, if Arsenal win, their goal difference will not only be higher, but their points will also be draw, and their goal difference will be higher. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. As I said, it's gonna come down to, look. This was the moment, man. And Heung-min Son, one of the best one-on-one finishers, finesse shot near post, ever, one of the best ever. And he just goes on to miss his chances. As I said, Spurs overall just couldn't convert their counterattacks, and it was that bad that you can see Pep Guardiola. This is not any manager. This is Pep Guardiola, out of all managers, fall onto the ground, bro. One of the best managers, if not the best. Won 3 trebles with 3 different teams: Barcelona, Real Madrid, not Real Madrid, Barcelona, Bayern Munich, and Manchester City, and bro, and he's on the ground, bro. He got a heart attack in this moment because he knew that this was the moment that would decide his fate. Would he be the first manager to win 4 Premier League titles in a row? But that is that. Of course, yeah, here are some of the moments that is very, very similar to, of course, Colomwani, and then that Emi Martinez, that debut save at the very end. You can even say the 2010 World Cup, Robin and Casillas just clips his leg, just like he's giving his leg a haircut, and then he just off his leg and then goes out wide. Some of the moments you can compare it to. So just crazy there for Spurs. No Champions League football for them now, and it is confirmed. I think this is the first time in Aston Villa's history that they have qualified to the Champions League, and that's pretty exciting to see. I think, of course, last year or this season, we saw, of course, Newcastle make it into the Champions League after, what was it, 40, 50 years, back in the Davi Ginola days. So that was around 1990-ish, 1980-ish, I think, somewhere around then. Anyways, I think that Aston Villa, of course, Newcastle had a pretty decent group stage as well. It was unlucky that they were in the group of death. They beat PSG 4-1. They had a draw here and there against Milan and also Borussia Dortmund. But I think that the Aston Villa will do better than Newcastle. I think Aston Villa will do better than Newcastle for sure. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. It's a huge step for Aston Villa as well. I think this season they were in the Conference League, not even the Europa League. They were in the 3rd tier of European football competition. And now it's a huge step going from the 3rd tier up to the 1st tier, the top tier, Champions League. But I mean, Unai Emery, man, he's had a pretty decent, he's not even a decent season, a great season with Aston Villa. Taking them from Conference League football to Champions League football is still pretty amazing. But as I said, it's also a huge step. But at the end of the day, it's Unai Emery, of course, former Arsenal manager, former PSG manager as well. So we'll see what he does. Will he cook with Aston Villa? They have a good team, of course, and a lot of good players as well. Ollie Watkins, Diego Carlos, Pau Torres. So yeah, we'll see what happens there. But I also want to talk, over here, Champions League. Fantastic job by Unai Emery and his team. Tottenham Hotspur will play Europa League football next season. And I think it's also confirmed. Actually, I don't know if it's confirmed, but as it stands right now, Tottenham Hotspurs play Europa League football, Aston Villa, Liverpool, Arsenal, and City play Champions League football. Newcastle play Conference League football. However, I think the FA Cup winner, which is next week, FA Cup. Correct me. I don't think, do Chelsea play Champions League? I don't know if Chelsea play in the. Does FA Cup winner? Inside, if the FA Cup winners finish inside the top four, which gives them group stage entry into the Champions League, or fifth, which secure them a place in the Europa League, then Europa League qualifying spot offered is given to the next highest ranked finisher in the Prem. Finish inside the top four. So if I'm reading this correctly, if United were to win the FA Cup, they'll go into European football, I believe. I'm not quite sure, but if City win the Europa League, since they're already in the top four, then it's gonna go down. So Spurs will go into the Champions League, I think. Newcastle will go to Europa League. Chelsea will go to the Conference League, and United won't play European football. But if United win the FA Cup, then they're going to go into the Conference League. I believe that's how it works. So we'll see what happens there. But of course, it's a big game, of course, Manchester derby. And man, I'm just hoping that they lose this game, because if they win this game, it's most likely that Erik ten Hag will be staying in the Prem. So at United, I think he already confirmed that he's going to be staying at United. He gives some signs that next season will come back stronger, and we'll see what happens next season. And for me, that's just not good for City or for United at all. Erik ten Hag, man, this guy against Arsenal, and especially with the injuries, the way he's managed United just overall is just terrible, man. The problem with Erik ten Hag is he doesn't take the blame himself. He blames it on the players. So that's not what you call a good manager, because if you want to keep the motivation and the team morale high in a team, you have to take some of the blame at some moments. But yeah, that is Spurs. Erling Haaland scores his 26th goal in the Prem, making a difference in the key game. 37 goals in all competitions for Manchester City this season. As I said, guys, I think Erling Haaland is one of the best strikers in the world at the moment. But teams have definitely started to figure out the way how to defend Haaland, and that's by putting a double mark on him, putting two defenders on him. And when you have that on him, he doesn't really have space to run into, space to move. He is still a physical striker, but overall, he's starting to become a player where you need to use him tactically in terms of distracting opponents' defenders, putting two players on him. And when you put two players on him, that opens up the space for the rest of your team to play or move into the space. And I think a similar thing, we'll talk about it with PSG as well, with Mbappe, but you can start to see it happening with Mbappe as well. Teams have started to put a double man on Mbappe, and it's difficult for Mbappe to move into space, to dribble into the space. So that is Erling Haaland. Before we end off the Premier League section of today's video, I want to talk about, is the Prem really a top 5 league? Guys, the Premier League, man, of course, the history in the Prem is amazing. As I said, I was talking about this with my friend. But this season specifically, the Prem is just not the same as we've seen in the past. In the past, we've seen England dominate the European rankings for many years. But this year, man, Italy and Germany and like have been doing very good in at least in European competitions, and that's where the Prem lacks is they lack in European competition, and they also lack in just competition overall. Um, like overall, for me, it's really Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool. Uh, Maybe you can say Spurs as well. Like these are the four teams. I think Chelsea have also started to kind of make a comeback into being a strong team, a challenging team. United, just no question there. Um, but for me, like these four teams, Spurs and Chelsea, are like really the only teams who can challenge for a Premier League title. That's what I truly believe, and those are the only teams who could possibly stop Man City from winning the title in the next year. But those are the teams who are competing at the top, and at the bottom, it's really the same three teams, the same even 4 or 5 teams who are always in a relegation battle: Sheffield United, Luton Town, Burnley, and Everton. The same 4 teams back to back to back, always fighting relegation. And then even when teams are promoted from the championship, if we take a look at the championship, it's really the same thing here. Ipswich are now being promoted, and it's most likely, man. When was the last time Ipswich was in the Prem, bro? Is this their first time, probably? Can I check, like, here, we can check the history. The last time they were in the Prem, oh my, it doesn't even show. They were in Championship, League One. So it's most likely that they're going to be relegated yet again. Leicester, I think they are most likely to stay in the Prem. I think next season we'll finally see Everton be relegated. And then Leeds, I think Southampton, like even if Norwich, Southampton, and Leeds make it back into the Prem, they're most likely to be relegated yet again. That's the problem. Is the problem with the Prem is you have to like, I think it's a competitive league, of course, don't get me wrong, but I think you have two sides of the competition. You have the top side, which is like, I'd say the top 7 fighting, or maybe the top 8 who are fighting for European competition, which is the top 4: City, Arsenal, Liverpool, Spurs. I'd say are the top 4, the really top 4 one. Aston Villa, and yeah, Aston Villa as well. You have the top 4 here, and the top 3 who are always fighting for. You have the top 4 who are always fighting for the Prem, and then you have like a team like Spurs, Chelsea, United, Newcastle, and West Ham, and maybe Brighton as well. So you have the top 4, and then you have from 5th to 9th place these 4 teams, these 5 teams specifically as well, or maybe to 10th place. These teams here as well, up to Brighton, who are just doing their best to fight for European football, the minimum European football. And then you have some filler teams in the middle: Bournemouth, Crystal Palace, Wolves, Fulham, maybe Brentford as well, who are just filler teams who are just there. And then you have another set of competitors who are fighting for relegation every season: Sheffield, Burnley, Luton Town, Everton, and next season the likelihoods of Ipswich, Norwich City, Leeds. There was one more team as well we saw, but I forgot. So I think the problem here is there's too many teams. You have 4 teams at the top fighting for. I'd say 5 teams at the top fighting for Champions League football, and then you have from 5th to 9th. I'd say not even 10th. I'd say 9th, 5th to 9th fighting for at least a European competition, which is either Europa League or Conference League. Then you have the mid-table teams who are just fillers, and then you have the bottom 5 teams who are always fighting relegations. We take a look at last season as well. Can we even take a look, man? If we take a look at the Prem, we take a look at the Prem table. 2020 here: City, Arsenal, United, who did good, But was this the season that Eric Ten Hag came in mid-season? I'm not quite sure. Newcastle, Liverpool, and then at the bottom here, Leeds, Leicester, Everton, Southampton, Nottingham Forest at 16th yet again. You have your filler teams here: Wolves, Crystal Palace, Fulham, and then we go to the season before. City, Liverpool, Chelsea, Spurs, Arsenal, United, the same teams, the big six in the top, who are fighting for the for Champions League football, and then you have your mid-table teams, Leicester, who were good back in the day. Your kind of mid-table teams fighting for European football: West Ham, Brighton, Wolves, kind of. And then you have your filler teams: Crystal Palace, Brentford, Southampton, and then you have your relegation teams: Norwich, Watford, Burnley. And the problem here is I wouldn't say is, of course, you have to respect that these teams at the top are just too good. But I think the problem here is, yet again, is there's too many teams and there's not enough competition. I think what the Prem should do is lower down their teams to maybe 18 teams, or even, yeah, I think 18 or 17 teams is fair, similar to the Ligue 1. They dropped it from 20 to 18, and I think the same with the Bundesliga as well. Drop down their teams, and what that does is that's going to add more importance and more competition, not only to the top of the league because there's less teams now, but also at the bottom of the league as well. It's going to be harder. It could be easier for teams like Chelsea, United to get relegated as well because of the shorter amount of teams there are. So let's say they cut it down to 18th, then we're going to have 18th, 17th, 16th, so up to 16th place to be relegated. And if we take a look, last season, I think Chelsea were 11th or 12th. That is not quite far off from relegation. So that's what I mean. I think lowering the amount of teams not only adds more competition, I think at the same time getting rid of because right now, as I said, you have your top fighting for European football, you have your fillers in the middle, and then you have the same teams fighting for trying to not be relegated. And that's what makes the Prem so boring. You have three sets. You have a competition at the top, fillers, and competition at the bottom. So I think coming down to 18 teams. One, more competition. A team like Chelsea getting 12th, you can possibly say could have gotten relegated because they're closer. If relegation was 16th, maybe they can even make it 15th. 4 teams get relegated. I think that's a bit too much, but you get what I mean, is there's a higher chance for bigger teams to also get relegated if they drop it down. And also if there's less teams, that means that more money will be distributed to the teams, and if more money is distributed to each team equally from ads and revenue of the Prem, that means that, of course, there's more money. Teams will gain more money because there's less teams to distribute the money to, and then teams can improve their players. The team can improve their players even more. So I think that's what we need. That's what we definitely need in football for sure, in the Prem. And overall, as I said, even in European football, this season it's just not been good for them as well. So I'm not saying they're a bad league. I'm just saying there could be improvements in the formatting of the league, dropping the amount of teams, and also just overall this season specifically is not the best look on them. If we're talking about this season specifically, I think England I personally think France had a better season than England. That might be a bit outrageous to say, but just taking a look at this from the what's the word? I'm trying to think of a word. From the quality of football that everyone talks about, the Prem being the best, this is not what you want to see. This is not the best look for them, and that's why I say they're not having the best. They're not the best league in the world, at least this season. Maybe overall, yes, but this season is just not a good look on them. So, Italy, Germany getting that one extra Champions League spot, of course, as they are the team with the most coefficient rankings this season in European competitions. So they will be each getting a 5th place in the Champions League. So we'll see what happens there. And it's quite exciting because we can possibly see 5 Italy teams, which we already are. We could see 5 Italian teams, 5 Germany teams, and 5 Spanish teams. So this can go either way. If Real Madrid win the Champions League, then next year, then because Real Madrid are in the top 4 of the La Liga, the Champions League spot for La Liga will be dropped down. So whoever is in 5th place, I believe, Liga table, Athletic Club will be going to Champions League football if Real Madrid win the Champions League. If Borussia Dortmund win the Champions League, then we'll see what's it called? Table. If Borussia Dortmund win the Champions League, who are in the top 5, already gaining that spot, then Eintracht Frankfurt will go into the Champions League. And on top of that, if Leverkusen win the Europa League, the winner of the Europa League is automatically qualified to the Champions League regardless of their league performances. So if Borussia Dortmund and Leverkusen both win their competitions, the Champions League for Borussia Dortmund and the Europa League for Bayern Leverkusen, then there will be 2 extra spots. The qualification for the Champions League in the Bundesliga will go down to Eintracht Frankfurt and Hoffenheim will both be going to the Champions League. Freiburg to the Europa League and Heidenheim to the Conference League. So we can see 9 teams, 7 of them in Champions League and then 2 in Europa League and Conference. We can possibly see 9 Bundesliga teams and 7 in European competition, which is mind-blowing, I think. And respect to Bundesliga, man. I really do think that this year Bundesliga had a better season, not only in European, but the competitiveness as well in the league had a better season than the Premier League. We finally saw the Farmers League come to an end, the 11-year streak of Bayern Munich winning the Bundesliga coming to an end. And for the first time, we've also seen Stuttgart for a while make it into the top 4. Have they ever, when was the last time? Have they even ever made it into the top 4? Not for quite a decade at least. So maybe even 2 decades. So we'll see Stuttgart into the Champions League, Leverkusen into the Champions League after a long time, of course. They made it to the final. When was that? 98 or somewhere around that. Zidane, I think, or he scored that volley. Was it? We can possibly see Eintracht Frankfurt and Hoffenheim. So man, overall, Bundesliga, man, killing it with the competitiveness. But as I said, going back to the Prem, rechanged their format, make it more competitive by making the amount of teams less from 20 to 18, and then that's gonna push up the relegation zone and make the importance of each match more, because now there's less games, so each point is worth more. On top of that, since there's less team, the distribution of the money will be more for each team. So yeah, that is the Prem. Holy, 40 minutes just on the Prem. We still have PSG, Leverkusen, Champions League all to go. So yeah, it's an exciting video today. Sit back and relax. Guys, let's go ahead talk about PSG. We're not going to be talking about the matches, but I want to talk about Paris Saint-Germain as a club and Ligue 1, of course. As I said, yeah, guys, PSG have won the Ligue 1, guys. So of course, it was undoubtedly they would win the Ligue 1. I think now they've won the last 6 out of the 7 Ligue 1. I think if we're talking about from 2011 when the Qatar bought the Qatar group bought PSG. If we're talking about since then, 2011 was that. I think we won 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017 Monaco won, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021 Lille won, 22, 23, and now 24. So we won 17 out of the last. No, I think I made a mistake. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. No, 17. Let's see. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 lost. 18, 19, 20, 21 lost, 22, 23, 24. So out of 12 out of the last 14, 12 out of the last 14 League Uns, PSG have won. And yeah, as I said, even you take a look over here, 18 teams. The distribution of the teams, of the points of the revenue in the League One will be distributed more to each team, and overall the competition is more. You see teams like as I said, the importance of the teams of the matches is worth more. You see now Monaco after I think last time was what 18-19 season, Lille into the Champions League. Possibly Brest into the Champions League qualification. We can possibly see 4 teams in Champions League, 4 League One teams in Champions League football. So yeah, it's quite amazing to see that League One is growing. And as I said, it's not only PSG who are dominating the league every year, but we're starting to see that there's more competition, like other than PSG. There's more competition throughout the whole league itself. Even when you take a look at last season, so this season you have your 3 teams who are being relegated are Metz, and even then you have a team in the first division who can still possibly stay in the first division because they go into a relegation qualification. So I think that's what the Prem need as well, is the possibility of the teams who are in the first, like not a direct relegation, but maybe going into the a relegation qualification. But you have Lorient, Clermont Foot, and Metz going down. And if we take a look from last season it was 20 teams. We have Auxerre, whatever that team is, I don't know how to pronounce it, Ajaccio, Troyes, and Angers, bro, I'm probably butchering these names, but they were the ones relegated the year before. Saint Etienne, Metz, Bordeaux, Nantes, Nimes, Dijon. So over here you can definitely tell there's more competitions. You have like teams are in the leagues longer because of the amount. Like over here 2019 20 teams, 2020 21, 21 22, and I think just overall there's more competition because now, especially this year, there's less leagues. I think what the Ligue 1 should do is I think the 3 teams should be relegated, and then the 5th team should go into the 15th, and the 15th team should go into a qualification. So 4 teams from the 2nd division would come up to the 1st division. But overall, Ligue 1, man, yeah, French football is starting to come, like it's making their way up into maybe the possibility of top 3 or top 4 leagues, like European leagues. That's just my personal preference. Guys, let's talk about PSG. Not their matches. Unfortunately, guys, PSG have just not been on a good streak. We had a draw against Le Havre at home as well, 3-3. And then we had a 1-0 loss against Borussia Dortmund. Another 1-0 loss against Borussia Dortmund at home, out of the Champions League. And then on Mbappe's last home game for PSG at the Park, we lost 3-1. So overall, it's kind of just looked like we've just kind of given up, especially after the Champions League. Like that game yesterday, for Mbappe's last match was just not the PSG you normally see. But overall, what is the future of PSG now that Kylian Mbappe is leaving the club? Of course, he made a 4-minute video of him leaving the club, thanking the team members, the coaches, the staff of PSG, and that is his last year for PSG. But how is this going to affect PSG? I want to talk about that. Like, will PSG still be dominating the Ligue 1, and will they still be Champions League contenders? So, first off, Kylian Mbappe will leave as a free agent, but Paris Saint-Germain estimate more than 200 million as money saved. So it includes 1-year extension not triggered. If Mbappe extended this year, they would have had to give him a salary bonus, and also at the start of this season, which is last September, he also decided to give up his 80 million loyalty bonus, which is not going to be paid. And on top of that, I do believe that it was rumored. I'm not exactly sure, but it was rumored that Real Madrid will give Mbappe like 100 mil signing bonus, even though they're getting him for free. He will get like 100 mil signing bonus, and apparently it's rumored that Mbappe wants to kind of repay that back to Paris Saint Germain, just because he left for free. Kind of, I'm not quite sure if that was real. That was like a month or 2 months ago. But either way, just like his salary pay is now gone, so we have a lot of money saved from his salary pay. I think he was making what 70 mil at least, just on salary, and then there's also the loyalty bonus and stuff like that. So overall, 200 million euro saved. So that is quite amazing because now we can invest this money into, as Fabrizio Romano said, 4 or 5 signings. Now, of course, Mbappe is the best player in football at the moment. And of course, for PSG, he is a very important figure for the club, not just as a player for the team, but even just in sales and marketing and all that stuff. So how does this affect PSG? Now, first, 200 million saved from salary bonuses, loyalty bonuses, and that stuff, of course. But I think the most important factor is how we can reinvest this money. Now, this season, we finally saw PSG change their view on the transfer market. They signed some youth players, Kank and Lee, Lucas Beraldo. I think we're getting a new CDM, a Brazilian CDM. He was injured in the winter transfer window, so he didn't come yet to the club, but he's going to be coming in. We had Bradley Barcola, of course, so Randall Colomwani, Goncalo Ramos. So a lot of youth players, and this is what Lucho likes as well, Luis Enrique. He likes to invest into players who can and develop these players, very similar to Pep Guardiola. So I think what this is this is not only money to invest in new star players, but also into youth players as well. Now I want to talk about what are some of the players that PSG can buy. So we'll come back to Monaco. We've already talked about Monaco qualifying. First off, Xavi Simons, hopefully he comes back on loan. Now this post here says a loan move, most likely option. Barca are pushing, Leipzig and Premier League clubs are keen to get him back on loan because I don't think he's even played a professional league or even Champions League game for PSG. He came in, we loaned him out to PSV, and then we loaned him out to RB Leipzig. So hopefully, especially under Luis Enrique, we can finally use him because he's had an amazing season for RB Leipzig in the Bundesliga as well. So hopefully we can get him. But other players we can invest into. Rafael Varane, he's experienced. Of course, now he is a bit old. He's, 30 now? But now with Lucas Hernandez with a 6 or a 7 month ACL injury, of course, even then Lucas Hernandez, he's 27 years old. But even then Lucas Hernandez was a bit old. But the reason we bought him is because he's experienced. And I think that's what we need at the back for PSG. We need experienced players and hopefully French players as well. Varane fitting perfectly. Experienced French players. And he's a captain as well. This is I wouldn't say it's a long-term solution, but it's definitely a short-term solution until Lucas Hernandez comes back. There's also the likes of Lenny Yoro. Is that his name? Lenny Yoro from Lille, the 17-year-old center back who's a top center back for his age. And I think it's confirmed now. I saw some on Twitter earlier today that he will not be joining the Real Madrid. So there's also the likelihood of him coming to the club, a young player who can learn from players like Rafael Varane. That is one. Kepren Thuram could leave OGC Nice for 15 to 20 mil this summer, which is an absolute steal. Yet again, French Parisian player, so hopefully he can come to the club. He's that big, and I was talking about him a lot last season as well because this guy is an amazing player. Now there's also the possibility of him going to Inter Milan to join his brother Kepren Thuram, and if that does happen, that could possibly happen as well. I could possibly see Barella from Inter Milan going to a team maybe like Liverpool are looking for a new midfielder, like a defensive midfielder. So I don't know if Barella fits that role, but I could see Barella going to a club like maybe even PSG as well. Bring Barella to PSG instead of PSG buying. There's rumors of them wanting a new midfielder, Bernardo Silva, Bruno Guimaraes. But let's say like PSG wanted to sign Barella, then I could definitely see Kepren Thuram 100% going to Inter Milan, of course. He fits the club, his brother's at the club. But if PSG can sign OGC Nice, it's going to be difficult because, of course, Nice being a top club in the Ligue 1, they don't want to sell to another rival in the Ligue 1. It's going to be difficult, but hopefully we can make it happen. It's definitely going to be demanding. But I'd rather PSG sign Kepren Thuram because in the past, even this season, he's an amazing, amazing center mid. As I said, he has that stock. He's great in the attack, great in the defense. Of course, he's not Jude Bellingham level, but he plays very similar. He has that role, the same kind of role. He doesn't have the same outcome as Jude Bellingham, but the role that they play, kind of like a stocky, a big center mid, box to box. So bring him into the club. But as I said, other players we can invest. Kepren Thuram in the attack. Hopefully we can get Kvaratskhelia into the club. I think I love him. We need a new star player and a winger as well. We need a winger, a striker, like an elite finisher, like a Osimhen, which is rumored that it's also becoming more likely to come. Of course, Osimhen does have past previous experience in the Ligue 1. Actually, before he joined Napoli, he was at Lille. So that's a good shout. Like maybe come back to Ligue 1, play Champions League football as well, because Napoli did get ninth place. So we need a left winger, not just a left winger, just a winger in general, a top winger like Rafael Leao, Kvaratskhelia, a striker because man, Gonzalo Ramos, he's just not experienced, and Randall Kolo Muani, man, get this guy out my club, bro. Biggest bum. I think it's good that has a lot of patent, bro. 90 mil, bro. Like 90 mil for Randall Kolo Muani was the biggest scam I've ever seen, man. So there is a rumor that they want to give Kolo Muani on loan and also some money to get Kvaratskhelia. So that would be amazing. So a winger for PSG, Kvaratskhelia, Rafael Leao, one of the two. Striker, Osimhen, perfect. I love Osimhen to be at the club. I've seen his performances this season, and he's just that guy. Like he fits PSG perfectly. He's good on the ball. I'd say he's technically wise, like his technicality, his dribbling on the ball is better than Erling Haaland, and also he's a top elite striker similar to Lewandowski and Erling Haaland as well. In the midfield, Bruno Guimaraes, there was Joshua Kimmich shouts. Like I don't think that's gonna happen, but there was those rumors as well. Bruno Guimaraes, Bernardo Silva, Joshua Kimmich, Kepren Thuram, Barella. So hopefully we can get one or two of them. And then we need a new left back as well. Rumors of what's his face, Theo Hernandez joining his brother Lucas Hernandez at PSG, of course. And then in the backline as well, we talked about Rafael Varane with that experience, and also Lenny Yoro from Euro, 17 years old, amazing center back. So if we can get a few of those players that I just mentioned, that would be amazing. If we can get 4 or 5 of those players I just mentioned, like Kvaratskhelia, Osimhen, Kepren Thuram. I'm not all about Theo Hernandez, but definitely a center back like Varane would be good, man. Like we just need some new players, whether it's experienced players like Varane, what's his name, Kimmich, like Bernardo Silva, or whether it's players who are at their peak of their career, or maybe not the peak of their career, but at a very good stage, like star players like Kvaratskhelia, Leao, Osimhen. Actually, I don't think Leao is happening. I think he renewed his contract earlier this week. But players like Leao, or like Osimhen, Kvaratskhelia, a new star player, and also youth players as well, like Lenny Yoro or Kepren Thuram. He's still pretty young. So let's make it happen. And that's the positives of Mbappe leaving. Yes, he's the best player in the world, but he saves us so much. I've talked about this last season as well when there was rumors of him leaving. I said it's good that like either way, I think it's a win-win. Yes, we lose the best player in the world, and a lot of people might think that we won't be a good team anymore because Mbappe is the best player and we are nothing without him. But with the money that Mbappe was taking from the club, like we can definitely go and invest on multiple stars like the ones I mentioned earlier. So I'm excited. I think we'll definitely see a lot of big players join the club. So let's make it happen. Let's invest in the youth players. Let's invest in new star players like Kvaratskhelia, Osimhen. Let's invest in experienced players like Varane, Bernardo Silva, Kimmich. Let's invest in youth players like Lenny Yoro. So we'll see what happens. Luis Enrique, I can confirm we will sign new players in every position for next season. As I said, wingers, strikers, midfielders, DMs, center backs, left backs. We need all of that at PSG. It's also a message to the players we have in the squad right now. Even the best players next season, I want 2 important players per position. It will be difficult to play for Paris Saint-Germain, and I think that was what we were really missing this season. It was we were kind of, I wouldn't say lacking defenders, but there was definitely a lot of rotation in this PSG team, and I think that's what Luis Enrique wants. Is the more players you have in the club, yes, you might have a bit of disappointment with some players not getting as much play time, but at the same time, that adds more competition in the club for each player to develop on their own time and get better. Maybe Goncalo Ramos sees, okay, Osimhen comes to the club. I want to play more. Let me develop myself even more. Let me push harder to hopefully play over Osimhen. So I think it adds more competition. Luis Enrique, do his thing, man. This is, yes, PSG were knocked out of the Champions League, but after the Champions League, after the Champions League, yes, I was sad that we're out. I didn't even record a podcast last week because I was sad. I just didn't have any motivation. But at the same time, you have to think of the positives. Is this season PSG, especially under Luis Enrique, the signings we made, the youth players, the experienced players, the development of the players. Overall, this was the first season in a while that I saw hope, the Parisian hope, the Parisian passion, the spirit. This was the first time in a while where I saw a team who wanted to fight for European football, who were actually playing as a team. There was a bit of controversial moments here and there, and a lot of injuries for sure. Skriniar injured, Lucas Hernandez now injured, Nuno Mendes injured. So one thing is we have a lot of injury-prone players. I think that's one reason why he wants to bring in new players. But at the same time, he wants more competition in the club as well, and just backup players overall. Luis Enrique, let him do his thing. I'm excited for PSG. Yes, Mbappe, the best player in the world, is leaving the club, and there is a lot of social media tweets saying PSG are nothing without Mbappe. But I'm actually pretty happy that he's leaving. Of course, there were some moments this season where I did post like, "Oh, get Mbappe out of my club. He's the biggest fraud, a rat, a turtle." But at some moments, like overall, I'm happy, man. Mbappe, top goal scorer of PSG. I think overall, he's not the top assister, I don't think, but he is probably the most historic player for PSG ever now. I'd say that for sure. And yes, he's leaving the club. PSG will still be a top competitor in the league, in the Champions League, in European football next season, in Ligue 1. So I think they'll still do, no matter the players they sign, the UCL will be much more harder to win now that Mbappe. I think, yeah, that is pretty true. But at the same time, as I said, I think we can now, Mbappe was the biggest star. Now we can sign multiple stars. Kvaratskhelia, Osimhen, Bernardo, like stuff like that. We can invest into new players. I think that was what there will be more reinforcements in all lines, and that's what I'm happy. I'm positive. I'm for sure positive. I'm happy to see. I think we'll be a big club next season for sure. Let's talk about Leverkusen, guys. Bro, how have they done it yet again, man? Bayern Leverkusen, man, they are just killing it. They finally, after this Roma game, they beat in the, I think they finally beat in the Eusebio's Benfica. Bro, it's been that long that Eusebio's Benfica record, 49 games unbeaten, has never been broken since Eusebio's days for Benfica, which is quite crazy. And finally, it's beaten. Now I want to talk about the legacy and just Roma overall. If Roma, they have 3 games remaining, 1 more game in the Bundesliga this weekend, Europa League final, and DFB Pokal final. So 3 games remaining. If Bayern Leverkusen manage to go unbeaten, of course they have to. If they lose the, they can lose the Bundesliga next game of the Bundesliga if they want, but most likely they will do their best to go unbeaten in the last game of the Bundesliga and just overall. But if they manage to win the treble unbeaten in all competitions, I think this is the best season in any club history to play football. It would have been even crazier if they did a Centurions with 100 points, but I think this is definitely better than the invincible the what am I trying to say here? This is definitely better than the Arsenal invincible season. This is better than a treble. This is better than a sextuple that Barcelona won, because to go unbeaten in all competitions in a league where Bayern Munich was dominating for 11 years, I think it's just quite crazy, man. I think it's quite crazy. And for a team who when Xabi Alonso took charge at Bayer Leverkusen on October 5th, 2022, they were second bottom in the league. And now and 2 years later, jump forward 2 years later, they have won the Bundesliga already. 136 goals in 49 games, qualified to the Europa League final, qualified to DFB Pokal final, one more Bundesliga game, 3 games overall to go to hopefully be a legendary unbeaten treble. I think this is probably the most legendary thing we might ever see. Of course, it's better than a treble because it's unbeaten as well, which is quite crazy. It's better than a sextuple. Actually, maybe that's a bit too crazy. That Barcelona sextuple, man, like that can never, because that was probably one of the best Barcelona teams ever. The likelihoods of Messi, Xavi, and of course all those historic players, Busquets, Puyol. So you can never match it to then Xavi and stuff. No hate, I respect that Barcelona team, one of the best teams, but this has definitely got to be matched to that level. Maybe not in terms of the way they played, because that Barcelona team back in the day was just a different gravy of football, man. Tiki taka central, man. And that's what that's the type of football I like to see. But Bayern Leverkusen are definitely on a similar level. It's definitely better than a treble. It's definitely better than Arsenal invincible season. It's better than City's Centurion 100-point season. It's better than Real Madrid's three-peat. This is a different gravy, because coming from almost being relegated in October 2022, 1.5 years later, 2 years later actually, and they come out to be unbeaten and on their way to winning a treble, is just crazy. And it's just the fact that they always do it in the last minute, man. These are all these are Bayer Leverkusen's last minute goals, late goals. 94th against Bayern, 94th against Karabakh, 94th against Augsburg, 94th against Leipzig, 94th against Stuttgart, 92nd against Karabakh to take them to the next round of the Europa League. We take a look over here. Yeah, over here it was a draw. I think it was 2-2. They were gonna go to extra time and they scored in the last minute. Patrick Schick, I remember that. And even over here, Leipzig, who are a top 4 team in the Bundesliga, Bayern, top team in the Bundesliga. They won it for the last 11 years. Stuttgart, who got 3rd place. We just saw they're having one of their best seasons, so they're not an easy team either. 93rd plus and 97th versus Karabakh. Okay, so this was the second one. I think the first one against Karabakh could have been in the group stage. And then we have 91st against Hoffenheim, who are a decent team. 97 against Borussia Dortmund, 4th place team, very good team. Another 97 just last week against Stuttgart, and then another 97th against Roma in the last minute to go through on aggregate, because as it stood, it was 2-0. It was 0-2 here in the first leg. And then Roma were winning 2-0 away. 2 penalties. Leonardo Paredes, PSG legend, scores both of them. And then Leverkusen go on to score. And yeah, even if they scored 1 to make it 2-1, so they still would have gone through. But they were hoping for that draw. I've never seen a manager like Xabi. Usually, you have even though they're losing that game on aggregate, they would have gone through. And usually, you would see teams put defenders in, start to play more defensive. But Xabi Alonso, bro, decides to go on. They're winning in the 82nd minute. It was from a corner, and then it rebounded into the net. On aggregate, they were winning, so they could have just gone all defense. But that match specifically, they were losing, so they would have their unbeaten streak would have come to an end. But in most situations, you would think a manager would start playing defensively. But what this guy Xabi Alonso decides to do, bro, is this guy decides. Oh, a lot of yellow cards as well. This guy decides to take off Jeremy Frimpong for Stanisic, who's on loan from Bayern Munich, who I think they should sign, like on a permanent if they can. Who he's had an amazing season. Now he's not really a right back. He's more like a right mid or even a right winger, and he even scored that last goal, which is a very nice goal. It was like we can show you guys here. It was just a through ball in, Shaka, and then just a cut inside sends sends one of the Roma players, and then just finesse far post. It was a very nice goal as well. As I said, the way that like he decided to make, and he put he did put on a new center back for Grimaldo, but overall like he took on Florian Wirtz on for Hoffenheim. He started to go all out attack. When Roma conceded that first, when Roma scored the second goal, I don't know if I can see this on Twitter. No, Xabi Alonso, come. He was telling his team like look at this, bro. Was this against Roma, bro? I don't know if this was the one against Roma, but overall, look over here. This was when they were winning the league. They were about to win the league. Yeah, here 2-0 down against Roma. He's telling them calm down, and even a player like Granit Xhaka, he's a leader, he's a captain. I don't know why Arsenal sold him, and he's been amazing for Bayern Leverkusen. Just mentally, this team knows to stay calm. Don't overreact. They're still in this, and then they go on and do some Real Madrid stuff. They go on and they make a comeback. They go on and they score in the last minute and draw the game. They were already going to go through an aggregate, but they draw the game to extend their overall unbeaten streak. This is just unheard of. So it's the way they play football as well, and overall the team together. This team has one of the best connections as a group of players. Hoffenheim or Hoffman having a great season. Adli, Granit Xhaka, one of the best DMs. He's a leader for this team. Frimpong and Grimaldo, probably the two best fullbacks in European football this season. And they're not even defensive, bro. These guys are scoring, and I think these are the only two players this season to both have 10 goals and 10 plus goals and 10 plus assists, which is, and as a fullback as well, is crazy. Palacio having a great season. Hincapié, Tapsoba. These are not any of your regular center backs. These are ball playing center backs, because with the way that Bayer Leverkusen play, they play possession based tiki taka football, very similar to Manchester City. So, and of course is this their main keeper as well? He's had a great year as well. Imagine all those 13 clean sheets, is it? But I mean, it's undoubtedly like the way that they play football. It's going to be very similar to Pep Guardiola with Xabi Alonso. He was managed by Ancelotti at Real Madrid, managed by Mourinho at Real Madrid, managed by Rafa Benitez at Liverpool, managed by Pep Guardiola at Bayern Munich. So he was managed by four of the best, some of the best managers in the world. So, he's a young new manager. Carried Leverkusen from second place 2 years ago, from second to bottom, up to hopefully making their way to possibly a unbeaten treble. And Bayern Leverkusen, before they even won the Bundesliga this year, I think have only had 2 trophies in their whole club's existence. And now he's on their way. Now they're on their way to win more trophies than the club has ever won. So in one season, which is crazy, man. It's just crazy. Patrick Schick, he's scored a lot of last minute goals. He's an amazing striker for them. Florian Wirtz, man, this guy, he's the next deal, man, on level with the Jude Bellingham, I'd say. They don't really have the same role, so I'm not gonna a lot of people might argue that Jude is better, but to be fair, they don't really have the same role, so I'm not gonna compare the two. But definitely, he has a very similar role to Musiala, maybe even to Odegaard, I'd say as well. Florian Wirtz, man, he is the next big thing. Josip Stanisic from on loan from Bayern Munich, having an amazing season. Very similar role to Frimpong, maybe a bit more attacking, but still. This guy, the center back here, good on the ball in the back. And then overall, Borja Iglesias. Oh yeah, Hardeki is there. Hradeki. The Finnish goalkeeper is the main keeper, Tella. Overall, man, Victor Boniface, and I'm excited. I'm excited to see what type of players. What is Xabi Alonso gonna do? What type of players is he gonna sign? That's what I'm also excited to see. But yeah, Bayern Leverkusen, amazing guys. Let's go ahead talk about the Champions League. Of course, I'm trying to kind of make it fast. It's already been an hour 10 minutes, but guys, Champions League. Borussia Dortmund versus Paris Saint-Germain. Now, both games, I would say, guys, PSG were very unlucky, but man, Borussia, the first game, man, PSG were getting owned, man. I will be honest, we were getting owned. There was a moments where we could have scored, but we were just not feeling like we just didn't want to score. I think we hit a bar. We hit 2 bars in this game. Mbappe hit the bar near post and then or far post, and then it rebounded back to him, and then he tried to shoot again, rebounded off of a player, back to Hakimi at the top of the box, goes near post and hits the bar again. We hit 2 bars. There was a cutback by Bradley Barcola, I believe, and Dembele just in front of he's on the penalty spot. All he has to do is just tap it in, hits it over the net. So Nuno Mendes was getting pocketed by Jadon Sancho, who's on loan from Manchester United, and Eric Ten Hag supposedly saying Eric Sancho is finished. He's not he's out of form. He doesn't participate in the trainings and stuff like that. And look at where he is now. And I think after this game, he cooked Nuno Mendes. And after this game, I think he's on the top 5 all-time most dribbles in Champions League, alongside Neymar and Messi and those types of levels. So overall, man, our defending, man, I think the problem was here we had too much of a high line, and with the way that Borussia Dortmund play, they have a very defensive line. Rersen, Hummels, and Schlotterbeck, amazing game. And where's the other guy as well, bro? Nicholas Schule. Hummels, bro, got the Champions League man the match in the first and second leg. Kobel had an amazing game. Matson and Adeyemi, these 2 guys were owning Dembele and Hakimi on this left-hand side, especially Adeyemi with a 7.1 rating. I gotta be honest, maybe in attack he wasn't the best, but definitely in defending he was there helping Matson a lot. We were getting owned on this left-hand side. Julian Brandt and Sancho, amazing. Julian Brandt, man, he's on par with Di Maria in being one of the most underrated players ever. And also Fulkrug as well, man. It's 2024, and could you imagine that Fulkrug would score against Paris Saint-Germain to make them go into the Champions League final, which is quite crazy. Overall, this game you only have PSG to blame because one, we played really bad, and we just missed the easiest chances. As I said, even the defense was bad. And then going into the second leg, which was just pain to watch because not only did we concede 1-0, we had 4 bars. We had 30 shots, 40 attacks, I believe. Not just maybe we attack but don't have a shot. 30 shots, 5 on target, which is not what you want to see. 5 big chances. We had a Zaire Emery. Can I show this? I wonder if I can. Zaire Emery near post Dortmund. We had an easy finish by Zaire Emery. Open net finish. Was it this one here, bro? No, this was them shooting against us. This was the Hummels goal. He scored a goal. Corner kick. But there was another Zaire Emery one. There was another post. There was a Champions League final. Mbappe. If you guys don't know, Mbappe, he kind of tapped it in to Neuer in the Champions League final, and he did something very similar, and then it hits the top of the bar. Vitinha with another power shot outside the box, like he did against Barcelona in both legs, and he hit the bar. Like, bro, this was bar central. In 2 legs, PSG hit 6 bars. And it's just the fact that even without the bars, like overall, 30 shots against 7, and we couldn't score one is crazy. It's unbelievable to me. So it's unlucky, nothing much to say. Overall, PSG, as I said, we talked about it before. Like, I'm happy that, like, this was, for once, we had hope in this PSG team. Also, guys, let's talk about probably the best leg, the best matchup, Bayern Munich versus Real Madrid. Now, I think before both legs, a lot of people expected Bayern Munich to get owned by Madrid. I wouldn't say owned, but definitely like uh outplayed. Like, maybe not to maybe not to this extent. At this extent, like, I was really thinking Bayern really had a chance. I was even saying that before. I think this would be a tough matchup. A lot of Madrid fans were saying this is an easy matchup, and even though they won, they didn't win. This is what I always have to say about Madrid in the last 2-3 years of the Champions League, especially the last. Like, I'd say even like the year they won it 2 years ago with Benzema and Vinny against Liverpool. In the last 3 years, Real Madrid are never the favorite team in any of the games. Against City, they were not the favorites. Against Bayern Munich, were they the favorites? I don't know. I wouldn't say they were the favorites. Last year, against City, not the favorites. Even the year before, against PSG, not the favorites. Against Chelsea, not the favorites. Against City, not the favorites. And against Liverpool, not the favorites either. So every year they are never the favorites, and even with them playing, like, I wouldn't say very bad, but you expect them to play better. Like, they always come, they show in the last minute, and that is just Real Madrid history, of course. But you expect Real Madrid to play better for the level that Real Madrid, the history of the club. You expect them to play like they had a lot of chances. I'm not saying they played bad, but I'm just saying to the extent for the level you expect Real Madrid to play at. Like, you don't expect them to score the last minutes of the game. You expect them to be consistent throughout the whole game. You get what I mean? But that's what makes Real Madrid is they always make the remontada kings, man. Which Leverkusen, I think they stole the title already. But like, look here, 2-1 against Leipzig, and you only have Leipzig to blame here because Leipzig had a lot of easy chances, and that's just poor from Madrid, who almost got knocked out. Like, 2-1 against Leipzig. Like, that's not what you really see. Now, this is a leg you can say is fair because City are probably the second best, like the next best team alongside Real Madrid. And then even Bayern Munich as well. We saw Bayern had not had a good season, and somehow they almost drew to them. They almost drew. Now let's talk about the game overall. Because as I said, Real Madrid are never the favorites, and for this leg here, they were not the favorites either. I think for me here, at the end of the day, yes, Real Madrid won, but tactically, Real Madrid did not win. They did not win. Bayern Munich lost. They did not lose to Real Madrid. Bayern Munich lost to themselves, man. Because both legs, all the goals were costed by themselves. Now, the second leg, where there is a bit of controversy, we will be talking about. But the first leg here, Leroy Sané was cooking up on that right wing. But the first goal here, you only have Bayern to blame. The first goal, Kim Min-jae pushing up to the half, like you have Kim Min-jae and marking Vinny Jr. all the way up here. Like, the defensive line is up here, and you have Kim Min-jae. Then you have a huge gap here, and of course Toni Kroos, man, one of the best visionary assisters of all time, or at least in our era for sure, definitely of all time, as you can argue as well. Makes an easy through, and Vinny's pace, of course, he's gonna make that pace and go through, and then just an easy tap around Manuel Neuer. And then the second goal, yet again, Kim Min-jae, bro, with such a there was no point to tackle, man, because Rodrigo was in a room where, like, he was already being marked by Eric Dyer, man, and then Kim Min-jae just goes behind him and just grabs him, man. Like, there was literally no point. So this game was, I wouldn't say this was 12 against 10, bro. Real Madrid at 12, Bayern had 10 players here. Kim Min-jae was frauding for Bayern Munich. I really think if Kim Min-jae did not start this game, you can possibly see Real Madrid not scoring 2 goals here. maybe you could have seen Bayern Munich going 2-1 into the second leg. And then the second leg as well, you only have Bayern Munich to blame here as well. As I said, it is Real Madrid history to score in the last 2 minutes. And Joselu, I want to talk about him as well. Joselu, man, 2 years ago when they made the finals, he went to Paris to watch that final with his dad. And also in 2014, he tweeted like, is there a link to watch the Real Madrid game for the final? I think it was the 2014 final. I don't know if maybe it wasn't the 2014 final, but it was definitely a match for PSG. And now he scored 2 goals to take them in the last 2 minutes, the 2 decisive goals to make them 4-3 on aggregate and to take them to the Champions League final, which is just amazing, man. That's just what you love to see. This is the Disney ending stories you love to see. Of course, Disney ending, because Disney endings are always happy fairy tales, you know. So this is the Disney ending. You did the Disney story you like to see for the Lou, man, Joselu. So amazing from him. As I said, Real Madrid had a good game. I'm not saying they had a bad game, but you only have Bayern Munich Bayern Munich lost to themselves. They do not lose to Madrid. Bayern Munich only have themselves to blame, because over here, man, they had like Real Madrid. Yes, I said they were dominating, and this goal by Alphonso Davies was amazing. But man, what are we doing, Thomas Tuchel? In the 84th minute, only 1 up against Real Madrid, the best team in the world, and decide to take off Jamal Musiala and Harry Kane. Decide to take off your best 2 attackers, because after these 2 were subbed off, they literally had no attack. And then you go on, and then you see the first goal, the second goal, and then you see like overall just some dramatic stuff going on. They decide to put Choupo-Moting and Thomas Müller. Like overall, why do you take your 2 best attackers? Because even after they took them off, they had some very good chances, but they just didn't have the right players to score those chances, to convert those attacks. So, man, 1-0 up against Real Madrid in the 84th minute as well, and that's when you know Real Madrid are in their mood. Of course, the Remontada Kings. As I said, Real Madrid had a very good game, man. They were dominant. They had so many chances. They hit the bar, and then Rodrigo had it. Manuel Neuer, amazing. He had a very good game. Other than like the last goal here, man, this is not what you want to see by Manuel Neuer. Vinny Jr. he kind of curls it in near post, and Manuel Neuer, easy save. This is a Manuel Neuer-esque save. And then he just drops the ball, and then Joselu is just in the right spot at the right time, taps it in. And then the second goal was from a corner, not a header in, but like it just kind of rebounded. And then it was almost offside, but they kept it onside. 2-1 over there. But as I said, yeah, like Real Madrid were dominating. There was also a goal that was ruled out, because Nacho pushed the guy, like he pushed him on his head. I think he pushed Kimmich, and then Kimmich fell. And it kind of like it was crossed in by Valverde and then rebounded into the net. But since Nacho pushed him, it was a foul, so they didn't count it. But I knew exactly when Real Madrid got that goal, when Nacho pushed that guy, like even though he pushed that guy and it was off, them scoring that goal gave them hope, and I already knew, even though it was out, they're gonna make a comeback. I just knew, man. You can already tell. Now here's where the controversy begins. Is one, as I said, you only have Bayern. Bayern have to blame themselves. Real Madrid played very good, but at the end of the day, for me personally, Bayern lost to themselves. They took off 2 attack. Like the subs they made was just terrible by Thomas Tuchel, and even in the first, like the Kim Min-jae mistake, 12 against 10, Real Madrid 12 players, and Bayern Munich 10. Like they only have themselves to blame. Harry Kane, throughout both legs, I wouldn't say Harry Kane had the best. Like he was just there. Like he should have done more. But here's where the controversy begins. Now there was 9-minute added time, I believe. Yeah, 9-minute added over here. But the controversy was, okay, first off, there was a lot of extra, like it went to 14-minute added time. But that was because, first off, the second goal was scored in the 90th minute. and it took about 2 minutes for the VAR to have 1.5 minutes for VAR, and then a good 30 seconds to a minute of celebrating for Real Madrid for the second goal. So that's another 2 minute 30 seconds, I'd say, at least 2 minutes added on top of the 9. That goes to 11 minutes. And then you just have like subs, a yellow card here, a yellow card there. So then that also kind of gets rid of time. So that's another minute and a half ish. So overall, should have gone to about 13 minutes. It went to 14 minutes extra, 14 and a half minutes. So Madrid fans, please stop crying. It was a good time. The time it went to was fine. 2 minutes from the first goal here and the celebration. And then just the yellow cards, the subs, another yellow card, the time wasting overall was also happening. But the controversy is over here. Now, this was the 114th minute, 113th minute. It's crossed in by whoever this guy is. Now, Rudiger, his arm was if Rudiger's arm was not like this, it wouldn't have been a discussion. I think the Ligt is offside because it's not the full arm. It's just like around the elbow-ish. There's like just barely, like if this is my elbow, I'd say around like where my shirt is. So De Ligt is off, and this is what I'm saying, man. They have De Ligt at attack, man, because they took off Jamal Musiala and Harry Kane. And then you have number 40 here. I don't know, is that Mazraoui, I believe. And the ball went to Mazraoui. And then what? Okay, so this. And then it was. So yeah, it kept rebounding. Now. So this was onside. But what happened was the linesman raised his flag before, like after the ball went here, like as De Ligt went to shoot, it rebounded to Thomas Muller, Muller to De Ligt, and then De Ligt opened net to score. But as Thomas Muller was passing to De Ligt, the linesman raised his flag for offside, and on top of that, the main referee in the middle of the pitch called, like he blew his whistle. So then at the end of the day, because he blew his whistle before the goal, VAR was not able to check it because the ref already blew his whistle before the goal. So he wasn't able to check it. Second off, yes, they called the offside. So when they called the offside, like when the linesman raised his flag, the Real Madrid players kind of froze. You can even tell, like I don't know if I can, I don't want to show the video, but you can see like when Thomas Muller has, like when De Ligt goes for the ball or when the ball is here, you can even see Militao just freezes for a second. Like he starts walking, he freezes, because he knew it was off. The linesman raised his flag, and even the goalkeeper Lunin, he didn't even dive for the goal. He was walking. He was literally walking, watching the ball, because the flag was raised. So at the end of the day, at the end of the day, like first off, you have to consider that okay, the Madrid players were walking. So if the play was to go on, the Madrid players wouldn't be walking, and they would have actually blocked it. I wouldn't say would have blocked it, but you never know. Maybe it still would have gone in, but there was a high chance that it would have blocked it. When you have De Ligt, bro, a center back going on, taking a shot, the only reason he scored was because they kind of froze. But we never know. We never know what would have happened. But that's the problem, is we wouldn't have known what would have happened if the linesman didn't make a mistake. Now, and the thing that makes it more controversial is the linesman, the VAR team, and actually, I'm not sure about the VAR team, but the two linesmen and the referee are the same. These three are the Polish trio, and these three are the same three coaches, referees, who refed the World Cup final, Argentina versus France. So these are three of the best, if not the best, referees out there right now. And making a mistake like this, the referee, like he made a mistake by raising his flag. But it all comes down to the main man himself, the main referee. If he did not blow his whistle, the play would have gone on. He can see, okay, the ref raised it, like the linesman raised his flag, but that did not mean that he had to blow his whistle. And that's the problem, is I think the communication, the overall, like just the everything about these refs. I'm not saying Madrid rigged it, but like it came down to the ref. I'm not saying Madrid played a good game. It came down to Bayern making like missing all their chances in the first leg, mistakes. Second leg, like the Neuer chance and stuff. That all came down to Bayern. And this goal here, Real Madrid played good football, man. I'm not saying Real Madrid did anything here, but at the end of the day, the match came down to the refs. And as I said, I'm not saying that Real Madrid paid the refs, but it always I'm not saying that Real Madrid are VAR Drid and ref Drid and stuff, but Real Madrid a lot of the times are benefited from the refs. Sometimes they're not. Of course, there was a goal earlier this year where the ref blew the whistle during a Real Madrid cross. They were crossing it in and it went into the net, but since the ref blew the whistle, it didn't count. And also, apparently, Real Madrid are the team with the most disallowed goals because of VAR. But at the same time, I think they're also the team with the most goals because of VAR, and also are benefited because of referees. Now, maybe in the past they were benefited because they paid the refs. Of course, in the last matchup against Bayern Munich, with Vidal, you had Vidal and stuff. With the red card and the offside with Ronaldo, and then the offside pass from Marcelo to Ronaldo, like it was barely offside, but it was offside. But yeah, both those goals. And I'm not saying like maybe back then Real Madrid paid. I'm not saying maybe they didn't. I'm not accusing Madrid. Madrid at the end of the day are the best team in the world, and I, as a PSG fan, as a football fan, you have to respect that they're the best team in the world, and you cannot deny that. But a lot of the times they are benefited by refs as well, and I'm not saying that this was their fault. This was definitely not their fault. Madrid played amazing football. Bayern also did really bad, so I think it was bound that Bayern were going to lose if it went to extra time. If it went to penalties, I think they could have won because Neuer is a penalty god. But at the end of the day, it came down to the refs, and it also came down to Bayern. The first leg, Kim and Jae 2-goal mistakes, and the second leg, just overall bad substitution. So yeah, that is that. Now we have Real Madrid versus Borussia Dortmund final. We will talk about that on another episode next week, but 10 days for the final. I believe, is it 10 days? No, June 1st. It's June 1st. But we'll talk about that on another day. My voice is starting to hurt as well. I want to go eat, of course. But yeah, it's also hour 30, so I don't want to make it too long. Let's quickly talk about the Ballon d'Or rankings. Vinny Jr., Jude Bellingham, 17. Kylian Mbappe, of course, always in the top 3. Harry Kane. Toni Kroos is about out far. But for me, I think a player that shouldn't be like that should be in the top 5, maybe you can say even top 4, is Florian Wirtz. As I said, they're probably, if they do go on to the unbeaten treble, is the most historic thing a club has ever done in football. And Florian Wirtz being a huge part of that just makes him such a huge contestant. And the reason I bring the Copa America and the Euros up is because I think Vinny Jr. and Jude Bellingham are probably both going to win the Champions League with Real Madrid. It would be pretty sick to see Borussia Dortmund win the Champions League as well. From going to a predicted last place in the group of death to topping the group and now in the Champions League final, Marco Reus announced he's leaving. He's going to leave Borussia Dortmund, so if he can finally win a major trophy. He hasn't won a Bundesliga at all, but if he can win a Champions League, went to the Champions League in 2013, but lost against Bayern Munich. If he can finally do it on his last season, well, would be pretty nice. A Disney ending. But I don't see, man. I just think I want Madrid to win. I'm a fan of Madrid I want Madrid to win. I'm not a Madrid fan. Like if it's PSG Madrid, I want PSG to win. But in this case right now, I want Madrid to win. If it's if Madrid win the final, Vinny and Jude are most likely to win the Ballon d'Or. But that's why we bring the Euros as well, because as I said, if Leverkusen also go on to win an unbeaten treble, I think Florian Wirtz can be ahead of Mbappe in the title race for the Ballon d'Or race. And on top of that, with how the Copa America and Euros can go, Germany have a pretty easy group over here, and their last 2 friendlies, they beat France in a friendly about a month and a bit ago, 2 months ago. And this year, man, like France in their past few friendlies have not been like the best either. So maybe France won't do good. And if France don't do good, Mbappe is definitely going to be out of the title race or the Ballon d'Or race. The only chance that Mbappe has to win the Ballon d'Or is if they win the Euros. But overall, I think France are definitely a very good team. But in their last few friendlies, they lost against Germany. Germany have a pretty easy group here. I think Germany will make it out. This is definitely a very nice group to see. Spain, Croatia, Italy. But I'm not here. I think we'll talk about the Euros on another episode. But I want to talk about the Ballon d'Or. Like if we say, I think this Ballon d'Or conversation really comes down to the performance in the Copa America and the Euros for both Vinny, Jude Bellingham, and Florian Wirtz. Because I think Vinny and Jude Bellingham will win the Champions League with Real Madrid, of course. They've already won the La Liga with Real Madrid. Florian Wirtz on his way to making an unbeaten treble with Leverkusen, Europa League final, Bundesliga, and also DFB Pokal. And I think it's going to really come down to who's going to do good in this Euros. Like maybe if Germany win the Euros as well, it's going to be huge, but also their performance, each of their individual performances in the Euros as well, is going to be huge. So I'm excited for the Euros, man. 2024. We have some good groups here. We're gonna go more into depth on the Euros and the Copa America on another episode. It's an hour 40-minute long episode, so I want to end it finally. But yeah, we have a lot. Germany, the Group B, Group of Death, I'd say. Group C. Even over here, you can honestly argue that England might not make it out of this group, and Jude Bellingham's Ballon d'Or chances are completely gone. You can honestly argue that. Netherlands, France, Poland. This is a very good group as well. Even Austria is a very good team, very underrated team. Ukraine, Slovakia, Romania, Belgium. Like even here, I think Belgium are the best team. But equally, I think Ukraine, Slovakia, and Romania are good on individual levels. So individually for these teams specifically, this is a difficult group for them. And then France, Czechoslovakia. There's not even Czech Republic. What am I saying? Turkey and Georgia, pretty decent group here. But overall, like we have some pretty good groups. I'm excited to see. We'll see what happens. Let's end it off with some footy knowledge. Let's do a timer here. Ivanovic, negative ball knowledge. That sounds like a Serbian name though. Cold. Harry Maguire, United. Locatelli, Italian. No. Salas, no negative ball knowledge. Eze, English, doesn't fit anything here. Pizarro, no clue. Can I do wild card? Maybe. No. Miroslav Klose, World Cup top goal scorer. Wissam Ben Yedder, Monaco. I think it's easier to get France. Cheikh Doucouré, I think he plays for Strasbourg. Is that the correct Doucouré? It wasn't. Michael Carrick. This guy English, like Arsenal or something. Lamer, Austrian. Terrier, there we go. That's our French. Botman at Newcastle. Nope. Ronaldinho, World Cup winner. David Alaba. No. Guardo. No. No. No, I don't know. Andre Silva, Portuguese. I don't know. Does he play for Porto? I believe the center back. Otavio, Portuguese. No. Gavardio, no. Oh, is this guy? No. Modeste, no. Ferland, Mendy, Leon, Zamaro, no. Anthony Gordon, no. Didier Drogba. Yo, what a lag for me. Luis Alberto, no. Karim Adeyemi, no. Arturo Vidal. I could have done Copa America, and I think I should have done Copa America. Gerard Piqué. Sir Alex Ferguson is at United. Yaya Toure. No. Petr Cech. Arsenal. Martinelli. Like no, yeah, no. I had to try Papo Gomez. Anthony. No. Keylor Navas. Oh, close, bro. We're probably missing a Leo player. Not bad. And then Footy TikTok. You can just hear my voice is just screwed. This is probably the longest episode I've ever done. Okay, let's do timer. French Ajax. Oh my, we're already screwed. French Ajax. Ballon d'Or. Oh my, we're screwed, guys. We're screwed. The Cruyff had to have won. And we'll do Messi here as well. And then for this one here, because we're just getting lucky, Mascherano. Ajax, Argentinian, Rulli. French, here we can go Griezmann. French United, you can go Pogba. United, Ballon d'Or, Cristiano Ronaldo. United, Argentina, Garnacho. The Ajax, French. Oh my, there's a FIFA. What, no, that guy played for PSV though. There was a FIFA objective, I think. Is he from PSV? Oh my, cold FIFA knowledge from me. I don't know. I don't know this one. This guy is not French. He played in France, but he's not French himself. Sango, I don't know who the heck that guy is. Anyways, you guys can hear my voice is screwed. A very big episode, so I don't know if you guys made it this far. Thank you. 1 hour 40 minutes, that's pretty crazy. So yeah, thank you if you made it this far. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that bell. Next episode will be next week. Gonna talk about the Champions League football. Maybe we'll have 1 or 2 guests on the podcast as well, 2 Madrid fans on the podcast. So we'll see. But yeah, for now, stay positive, stay happy, stay afloat, and I'll see you later. Au revoir.